Coding Jesus is wrong. For a particular short he has published, I'm going to say published, I don't know what other word is there. English is my second language, and fuck you. Right? Why is he wrong? Because he had a short labeled "Don't Become a Software Engineer," in which a person in his YouTube chat, I believe, going with the username at neo22501 says, should I bother to go into programming if I'm dumb? CJ obviously says no. Now, why does he say no? Right? Why does he say no? Because he thinks if you are dumb, then don't go into programming because it needs a level of reasoning. I mean, that's smart. That's reasonable, right? That's reasonable. But what I have to ask to that person, this is my first point. I have 3 points. This is my first point is, how are you so sure that you are dumb to do this or not to do this, right? Because essentially a dumb person will not realize that he is dumb. He is not smart enough to do that, right? I'm not talking about the people who are optimistic here. They could see the pros and become optimistic. I'm not talking about optimistic people. I'm talking about people who are genuinely dumb, don't think themselves as dumb, so which will not lead into that comment in the first place. But people who are smart or who have a normal level of critical thinking will label themselves as dumb, right? And some people who have ego and they'll label themselves as smart, who have a problematic ego. There are some good egos as well, right? So that's what I question to him. How did you gauge yourself that you are dumb? Now the second point, programming or any skill for that matter is a repeated practice. No matter whoever says this, whoever the best of developers says this, even if he says programming is not all about practice, right? If you're the one doing practice, if you want to increase your skill of programming or get cracked, the only way you can do it is practice. Creating projects, solving lead code. If that's practice for you, it has to involve you typing code and understanding what you type, and to solve more complex, more harder problems in the future. That's what you have to do every time. And up until one point, you will learn the patterns, because your brain is evolved to recognize patterns. No matter how much ever you believe in yourself, don't believe in yourself, your brain knows patterns. Your brain learns patterns. It's something that the brain is good at doing, to recognize patterns, because those are the things that allowed us to develop from our cave ancestor era, right? So practice. Heck, doctors have to practice their skills. Lawyers have to practice their skills. They all have to practice. Without practice, none of your skills goes anywhere without practice, right? Always, as a beginner, you will feel dumb because you don't know, right? And if you don't know, you think to yourself that you are dumb. That's not being dumb, so to speak. That is being ignorant. Not willfully, but you are being ignorant to the stuff you don't know, right? You don't know the things, you're not informed about it, so you say that, oh, I'm dumb. You're labeling yourself, I'm not smart for this. But all it needs is just more practice and to learn more about it, right? So that's where I'm coming to my second point. Practice. Without practice, you cannot really say yourself that whether you are cut out for it or not, right? Now the third point is, the goal for this is, it comes like you have practiced your coding and now you are applying for jobs and you don't get a job. You applied for many applications and you don't get most of those applications. Now that could be And you can't use that as a factor to say that you are not cut out for programming. Reason being that whenever you involve job into the mix, whenever you involve getting money into the mix, you are dependent on human beings. You're dependent on human beings. And because you're dependent on human beings, there's a factor of probability. I'm not saying luck, because when people hear luck, oh, it's something that you can't control, right? But probability is the same thing, but then people will think like, oh, I can't control it. Say probability, right? So probability is something you can control. How do you control it? I'll say it in a minute. Let me finish this point first. How is it probability? How is the probability factor coming in? So the first thing is, you are allowing other humans in the process. Thus, you can't control other humans. You can only convince other humans. You cannot control them. Brainwashing is a form of convincing other person to support you. It's the same thing. Manipulation feels like control, but you are actually convincing that other person to give you the answers or to make him or her do something for you. It's still convincing, right? So you can't really control a person. You can only convince him. And that's what interviews are for in jobs. Convincing the other person that you are good, you're a good hire. But that's where probability comes in. Whether you can convince that person, obviously relies on you, but relies on the other person as well, right? So if you put probability in the factor, you can't really use that to gauge your skills. I mean, at the end of the day, it is your decision whether to use that as a factor to gauge your skill. I'll never compare my skills based on the amount of applications I got rejected or got accepted, or whichever big company or small company got accepted it. Because you might be the brilliant in programming, and you might have been selected because it was somebody's good day. You might have been rejected because it was somebody's bad day, right? So probability is involved. It's not a very good judgment of skills, right? The probability, right, in the factor, if it's there, I cannot say whether you can make it to a job, or whether you will be making it to a job, or whether you will not make it to a job, because the probability is where it lies. I need to figure out the probability whether you get a job or not. I cannot figure that out without observing the stuff you do, and also without observing the company's application process or the hiring process, and also the person who is hiring you. I need to take in all those things to make a good judgment whether you'll get the job or not, right? Yeah. So what I'm saying is, so for me to conclude this is that, to conclude with a good note, is that this probability, right, this probability can be tipped over to your favor. You do this by my second point: practice, practice, practice. Without practice, there is the probability. The probability can tip forward to you because some sheer luck, right? Something that you can't control. But most of the time, the probability is always against you. So, if you keep on practice, that probability comes towards you and towards you. And this is in case if it's a job. If it's not a job, right, there is no probability. You keep on practicing and your skill will develop. But at the end of the day, right, I still can't say whether you can make it or not. Coding Jesus can't say whether you can make it or not. The only person who can say is, I don't know, I don't believe in God, so I don't know who is there, if there is anyone can say. I mean, there is one person who can say whether you make it or not: the hiring agent or the hiring person, the HR. Yeah, That's the only person who can say whether you can make it or not for the job position you are applying to. So yeah, to conclude, finally, to think you are dumb is kind of dumb, because if you think you are dumb, you are kind of smart, because a dumb person will never out himself as dumb. Only a smart person does. Second thing, getting a job, being good at programming, being not dumb at programming, it comes with practice and some kind of critical thinking, right? But mostly about practice. And the third thing is, to get a job, to pick up a job, is probabilities are there, and to tip it your favor, practice, right? Oh yeah, side note, practice can also be the stuff, how you talk, how you communicate, can also relate to practice. The reason being that those things are good skills as well. Only technical is also good, but a person with good communication skills is also good. So those are ways you can tip the luck towards your favor. Yeah. So that's all I have to say. I guess it's a rant when I saw that shot, and I kind of I didn't like it, but I do admire him though. Coding Jesus, inspired hair. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. See you next time, I guess.